welcome back to a special feature of the Jackrabbit Illustrated podcast. We're excited to have you join us here today. Before we dive in, we'd like to thank our sponsors who help make this possible. First off, a big thank you to our title sponsor again for 2024, the Kubota dealers of South Dakota. Whether it's tractors, mowers, utility vehicles, construction, or farm equipment, Kubota's got you covered. With 9 convenient locations across the state of South Dakota and 1 in northwest Iowa, there's always a Kubota dealer nearby. Stop by your local Kubota dealer and see all they have to offer. All Jackrabbit Illustrated special features are sponsored this year by Northwestern Mutual. Northwestern Mutual, the one stop for all your financial planning and life insurance needs. Next, we'd like to appreciate the support of our other special feature sponsors, Cubby Sports Bar and Grill, the best sports bar and grill in South Dakota and the best place to watch the Jacks for away games. Culver's of Brookings and Watertown. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. Jackrabbit Central, the single best place to get all the best Jackrabbit gear. And now, your special feature.
Hey everybody, welcome to a special edition podcast. Oh my goodness, it is game week, finally. I don't know if it took a long time or no time at all, but it's here. We couldn't be more excited. Going to jump right in here real quick. Again, thank you to our title sponsor for 2024, Kubota Dealers of South Dakota. Also, our show sponsor here, Northwestern Mutual. Make sure you support those two sponsors. And with that, I've got producer Chad here, and this is going to be a really short episode. For those of you watching live, wow, it just ticked over 100 already. Awesome. So for those of you watching live, we're going to do our normal 18 pod at 8 o'clock. But before that, since we've got a new team that we're facing, everybody gets up and gets excited for these FBS games. We've got Mr. Justin Southwell of the Bleav in OK State podcast. He's a former player down there. Excited to get his take on this game and their season coming up and kind of get to know all things Oklahoma State. Justin, what's going on, man?
I already see the Ted Lasso comments coming, so bring them on. We love it. Love it. Man, appreciate you having me on. You said it. I'm an Oklahoma State former player, but before then I was a huge fan and I just live and breathe Oklahoma State, and I appreciate you having me on. Excited to talk about the season.
And you played wide receiver, if I'm correct, right?
That is correct. So when I grew up, Oklahoma State wasn't anything special. And then all of a sudden we started getting guys like Adarius Bowman, Des Bryant, Justin Blackman, Josh Cooper. And it's right around the time that I went. So of course I'm just like, that's my luck, I guess. I could have been the guy, but no, I had to be behind all these all-American receivers. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't that good, but it was good for me to be able to kind of piggyback off of some of the best teams in school history where we were able to win a lot of games.
No, there has been a ton of success down there, and obviously, a lot of positivity here coming off of last season. So kind of the intent here today is to talk through, I don't know, maybe we can start. Do you want to just recap the 23 season? And obviously there's some, I've listened to a ton of content and read way more Oklahoma State material than I've ever thought I would in my life. I've actually really enjoyed this the last couple of weeks here, just being so excited for the season. So, there was a lot of duality last year. And if you look at the struggles early on, excuse me, by the way, I'm extra nasally today because I'm getting over a nasty cold. So sorry, everybody. But early in the season, there were some struggles, and then that got corrected, and then you guys steamrolled some teams back half of the year. You want to kind of take us through the season?
Sure. And you really have to go back to the second half of 2022 to get the full picture. Our offensive line was decimated with injuries, as well as some other players in key positions. But we lost several games at the end of that year, and it caused a lot of guys to get upset. We're not playing to the standard. And a lot of people decided to jump in the transfer portal because of that. And we really pride ourselves on culture. It really appeared like that was falling apart at the seams. And, we had to essentially lean on the transfer portal. And Coach Gundy promised a lot of those players coming in that they were going to have the opportunity to play and have the opportunity to, make first team. So at the start of that 2023 season, we were in 3 quarterback rotation. I think a lot of people know that, but it really was several key positions, and it became very difficult for anyone to be able to get into any kind of rhythm or establish any kind of identity. And it's really incongruent to anything Coach Gundy has ever done before. But the way that the new era of college football is with the transfer portal, I feel like that was his edition of, hey, this is a time to adapt or die. And that was his way of adapting, letting guys come in and play. And it just didn't work out. We kind of treated the we treated the non-conference like an off season or an NFL preseason. And because of that, we weren't prepared for games like South Alabama, where they knocked us off. And, it led into the next week at Iowa State. It was too late by the time we got all that rolling. But that's really what the full picture, the story of that season. Once we finally found that identity and recognized that Ollie Gordon was the running back, that he's the beast, to give him 25 to 30 carries a game, it's going to be a lot easier to win those games. And we saw that switch essentially flip, where we started winning all these games at the end of the year.
That's definitely what I wanted to hear you touch on, because it is obvious once you go back and pay any attention at all, those first few games had nothing to do with what the team ended up being at the end of the year. But I am really curious though. I want to get into the second half a little bit more, because one, we'll get into individuals in a minute here, but you got a ton of returning starters and talent. So if the assumption is that we're going to see an extension of the back half of last season this year, I mean, you guys averaged 40 points a game the second half of the year, something like that. It was just an obnoxious amount of offense. Like how did you do that?
Man, yeah, that was really it. There was that one game against UCF. So it came right on the heels of playing against our rival OU. So we beat Oklahoma, and we kind of just had this Bedlam hangover, right? So Bedlam is the name of that rivalry game. For those that don't know, we had the Bedlam hangover against UCF. We were playing in hurricane-like conditions, and that was the one outlier for the second half of that season, before we were in the Big 12 championship game, where we were just really outmatched against a much more talented Texas team. But then they bounced back and beat Texas A&M in the Texas Bowl. So it really was a matter of letting Ollie be the guy. And even whenever you thought people would maybe start to recognize that he was the guy, you maybe start to see teams loading the box, 7, 8, 9 guys, whatever. That didn't really seem to happen. And if it did, we also had guys on the edge. Rashad Owens, a receiver, Brennan Presley, to be able to get out in space and to continue scoring. And, Rashad Owens really caught on because of that in the second half of the year, where he just kind of showed up out of nowhere. We weren't really expecting that to be the case. And there were a couple of games there toward the end of the year. He had over 100 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. And that's kind of what we're expecting going into the 2024 season. More of the same.
But more of the same, but you guys had some definite key additions that added some depth. One of the names right away that jumps off the page is Trent Holland out of, sorry, that was in Indiana, right?
Indiana. Yeah.
So you want to talk through maybe some just key additions in the offseason and how you guys work the portal?
Yeah, I mean, you did mention it. So, we do have a ton of returning starters. It's not necessarily we had to rely on the transfer portal like we did in the past. And Trent Holland we did have a guy, he was a speedy running back, Jaden Nixon, and he transferred, I think it was to Western Michigan. So, what does it look like to replace the depth of this running back, Ollie Gordon? He's getting all the touches and stuff, but he can't do it all the time. He's a human still. He's got to rest every once in a while. So who else can we bring in?
Are you sure he's human? Has anybody checked on that?
Maybe superhuman. But we actually brought in a guy from Arkansas named AJ Green, and he, I believe, had maybe a season-ending injury, which is really unfortunate. But after that, we start looking around again and bring in Trent Holland, and this dude, 6'3", 240 pounds, and I'm just like, what in the world? Like, you have the best running back in the country with Ollie Gordon, and then anytime he has to go out to take a break, you've got to deal with this guy.
Yeah, you've got a good-sized defensive end comes amazing. In and can carry the ball. He's an absolute freak.
It would seem that that's the guy we're probably going to see the most of, primarily, I would guess, because it sounds like Ollie's maybe dealing with a small hip issue. Have you heard anything more about that?
I haven't heard a ton about it. And
before the rumors came out that his leg fell off or whatever for about 3 hours there,
right.
it was critical, and then he was fine.
Right. So, you do have it right. From what I've heard, it was kind of a hip extension type of injury. But he's been in practice. He hasn't been limited by that at all. I don't necessarily think we're going to see him get the 50 carries that you may have heard Coach Gundy joke about with her for his punishment.
Oh, we heard.
But yeah,
It's
with
just
that,
2 beers.
I don't foresee him being out of the game. And, you know, as far as seeing a lot more of Trent Howland, it could be the case. You almost have to just feed the hot hand at that point. You know, if Trent Howland comes in and he's tearing it up, you know, why not just rest Ollie and let him have his fun out there, you know? So we'll just see how that plays out. I don't really have too much more insight into that. I just know that the injury to Ollie Gordon isn't anything significant.
Was not significant. Okay. Well, thank you for clearing that up. So a lot of known quantities coming back. It's actually pretty similar to last year's South Dakota State team, where it was just last year we call it a victory lap, more or less from the previous national championship year. But what do you have any question marks coming into this year? Like, do you have any unknowns that you're concerned about?
With the familiarity of the team, there's not necessarily unknowns. It's more of an aspect of, you know, can our secondary maybe not give up so many explosive plays? It was really frustrating to watch last year. I think the defense is actually a lot better than the stat line would show. I think we were somewhere around 119th to 122nd in total defense because of those explosive plays. If you cut those in half, you're looking at least, you know, top 40, top 50 defense. And I think that's what, you know, the expectation should be for our second year for Coach Nardo. He's our defensive coordinator. I think there was just a lot of missed assignments last year trying to figure out, you know, where the best fit is for some of these players. And given another full offseason, all these returning starters, I think they're starting to figure that out a little bit. And that's really my question mark, though. It's like, can we actually eliminate those explosive plays on defense?
Do you think that's more of a scheme thing than a personnel thing? Because
I was going to ask that exact same thing.
To beat the 3-3-5 is with, you know, 4-go routes, so to speak.
Yeah,
from what I know of it. So
seems,
and he's a former Nardo. He's a former Iowa State guy, right?
He hails from the same coaching tree, from my understanding.
Coaching there.
We got him from Gannon University.
Okay.
I Bleav it's D3. But he has a lot of the same philosophies as what you would see from Iowa State in that 3-3-5 scheme. And you're right. You know, it seemed like whenever we were to have an explosive play, it seemed like it was just right up the middle. You know, what happened to our deep coverage back there? And, you know, I think that it could be partially the scheme of that, but some of it may just be, you know, the players that were in those positions. Kendall Daniels, for example, played safety, and he gave up some of those plays. This year, I mean, he's gained so much weight and so much mass, he's going to be playing more of a linebacker role. It's like, well, no wonder he was getting burned deep. You can't expect him to be the guy to, you know, chase down these speedy receivers whenever he should be closer to the line, stopping the running back and things like that. So I think that if you make those adjustments, maybe we won't see so much of that.
So that's a name I wanted to touch on a little bit, because that's probably the name I've heard the most. It must be just a lot of buzz about kind of the changes he underwent and changing position and everything. So flipping it now and just talking the defense in general, what I've heard you have a fantastic linebacking core, correct?
That's right. That would absolutely be the strength of the defense, led by Nick Martin, who had, I think, 140 tackles last year. He just plays with reckless abandon out there. We also have Colin Oliver, who is more on the edge of the line. He's still in the linebacker type of position. He's stuck it out. I mean, that's a guy that he's so talented, and he really could have hopped in the portal and gone wherever, but he's been through three defensive coordinators in his time at Oklahoma State. This is the first year where he gets to have the same coordinator from one season to the next. I guess that could be the same for a lot of those guys, but the fact that he has actually bounced around to different positions, he kind of started in that on the D line, on the edge, bounced back to linebacker, got a lot of tackles. Now we're going to shift him a little bit back to getting after the quarterback. That was one of the biggest things for our defense last year. Quarterback pressures, sacks, is way down. And when defense, they're just letting the quarterback stand back there, pick them apart. Of course, we're going to be giving up explosive plays. So I think when you can play to the strengths of guys like Colin Oliver to come down and play on that edge, Kendall Daniels to come down in that linebacker position, I mean, those three guys right there, they're the big three. And if they're all playing linebacker, of course, that's the strength by far on the defense.
And talking about the defensive line, so there was a noted lack of pressure last year, but it sounds like there's a lot of depth and they're feeling optimistic there and they can rotate 2 to even 3 deep across the defensive line here this season.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the biggest guys up front, I mean, literally, Justin Kirkland, dude is a freak. He's got, I think somebody said he had like 51 reps at 225 on bench.
51?
51. And he's in college football 25 with strength at 97. I think they need to crank that up a little bit more because that's absurd. But he anchors the defense. He's the nose tackle there. And when he's not in, he's got another capable backup in Colin Clay. We've got guys that have even transferred. I think more on maybe the defensive line linebacker type of hybrid role. Actually, for somebody from Gannon who knows Coach Nardo and Obi Exigbo. I'm gonna have to get his name right because I can't remember.
Ezigbo.
There you go.
Ezigbo.
So yeah, all the new players got to learn all the new names, all the new numbers, all that good stuff, and name pronunciations.
Well, but you don't have to do that with at least one position, right? Because if I'm not correct, wasn't Alan Bowman your quarterback? Because he's been there forever.
Well, it's just his second year. He's been in college forever. That is true. He started off as an opponent at Texas Tech back in 2018, and
got a lot of time.
Yeah,
unreal. But yeah, I think more on the defensive line, like Xavier Ross is a name to watch out for. Cody Waltersheed is a guy that's been in the program for a long time. We expect those guys to really be able to hold it down.
We got some of this next year, and we'll talk about this next week when I can come on your show. Is we got a lot of guys that have sat and waited and waited and waited for their turn, and we got a bunch of those. So it's always really rewarding to see some of those guys get their chance and get their chance to shine.
Definitely. And I'm a little bit worried on that front with your running back, with Amar Johnson, because it sounds like he might be better. I don't want to say it, but he might be better.
He's sat and we can talk about this more later, but there's a guy that he sat behind 2 dudes that have been drafted, and he's just taking a few reps and a few reps and a few reps, and now having his time to shine is pretty cool. All right, so we're running super short on time here. We'll go for those of you watching. Geez, we're up to over 400 people now watching live. Cool, welcome. And if you are watching live, this will end a little bit before 8 o'clock. We're going to jump over and do our normal pod then. 8 o'clock Sunday nights. Here with Justin Southwell, Bleav in OK State. Want to flip and talk offense now a little bit. Talk the running backs a ton. They're obviously the stars of the show, getting all the attention this year, but it really sounds like that's driven by the O-line you guys have.
We have 7, 8 guys that are just, all the experience in the world, more than 200 starts between them all. 7 out of the 8 are redshirt seniors.
Oof.
They've just been here forever. And, they really are the kind of the heart and soul of this team. They're, maybe not, you'd think, getting the credit for what Ollie Gordon is doing, but Ollie will turn right around and he'll give him the credit. And, these are the guys that they stuck around after that 2022 season where things kind of really went downhill. They stuck it out. We've got a great offensive line coach and Coach Dickey just developing these guys and giving them the position. Like we've actually changed from more of a zone scheme to a gap scheme to give them the opportunity to have more success. And they've absolutely taken advantage of it. They're playing to their strengths. They're coming back for another year. They just want more. It's great.
So then touched on the quarterback a little bit. I think it sounds to me like the thing just to be aware of is that last year, there were some struggles early on, but there was a 3 quarterback rotation, got that settled. That has not been in question ever since. So you've got somebody with a ton of experience, played a ton of football, and is now completely adjusted to the offense and is just kind of ready to roll. Is that an accurate way to sum up that situation? You
got it. People say he's light years ahead of where he was at this time last year. He's practicing with confidence, knowing he's QB1. He's growing out a mustache like me. You got to love that. Just so much confidence, so much swagger that you need to see from your quarterback. And of course, the leadership that he brings to the table, being that 7th-year senior. And yeah, I'm really excited to see how far Alan Bowman can elevate his game to the next level this upcoming year.
Is there anything the Ted Lasso comments just keep coming.
Dude, it's a great mustache. You just gotta
it really is.
You gotta take that every one of those as a compliment, or
absolutely
I wouldn't put them up. Yeah.
Lean into it.
It's a great show too.
So does he real quick, does he have anybody, like some names jump out in either the wide receiver or tight end rooms that for weapons that he's gonna be looking for?
Brennan Presley is the senior slot receiver, explosive. I mean, the guy he's just super quick. He'll be playing Sundays. Even with his size, you would think that there's no way, but there is. He's that good. And then Rashad Owens on the end, like he was on the outside, he was making those big plays last year. But really one to watch out for is a guy that got injured earlier in the season, and Dejon Stribling, number 1. I think he's listed at 6'2", 200 pounds. And that guy he was in front of Rashad Owens to start the season. And Rashad was the one to come up and make those big plays and step in. It's like, hey, I'm not really ready to give up that position yet. So we really have at least 3 receivers. And, some people are saying, we're going to have 3 1,000-yard receivers. I'm like, pump the brakes a little bit on that.
Hold on. Where's all this? How many possessions a game he is going to have?
Yeah. So I'm not on that. I'm not on that train yet, but they have absolutely the potential to really go off, be explosive, make tons of plays. It's a matter of the offensive coordinator, Casey Dunn, if he wants to play to that strength and step on some necks and just keep it rolling. I don't know. We haven't had that mentality at our offensive coordinator in a little while, like we have had in the past. Maybe some of the other teams that you've seen earlier in the 20 teens, but who's to say they don't do that this year? I don't know.
I tell you what, Justin, we're just about out of time here. You guys have an embarrassment of riches, and I can see why your fan base has the confidence that they do this year. It's I think everybody's pretty clear. It's playoffs or bust with the 12-team format here, and I think most, watching yesterday, most of the people picking their brackets, had you guys slotted in there, in the mid, 6 to 10 range, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. So, couple of quick questions, and then I want to hear real fast some recommendations for people listening that are traveling down there. All right. So 1, if Oklahoma State's going to take care of business, what do you think that they have to do?
If Oklahoma State is going to take care of business, you got to establish the run game like we've been doing. Ollie Gordon's got to be able to run. If not him, Trent Allen come in, run that ball, because I'm not quite there with the trust. I've been talking him up. He's got the confidence. We've got the weapons on the outside, but Alan Bowman, as good as he is, if you want to put it this way, he would probably be the weak point on offense. And I don't necessarily know that I could trust him, opening up the game and, throwing bombs and scoring points that way. I think it does start and end with Ollie Gordon and establishing the run game. And then on the defense, I kind of already mentioned it, but giving up those explosive plays, getting after the quarterback, those are the keys to victory.
Sure. All right. Well, then in closing here, give me one place everybody has to eat, one place everybody should hang out when they come down.
I don't even know if I can do just one.
All right. So a couple. Let them go.
Eskimo Joe's and Hideaway Pizza are the 2 that everybody would go to for game days. It's going to be packed. If you want to go there, you need to get there early. If you want to get there for another place for breakfast, place I love is called Just Wafflin'. You got to check that one out. If you love ice cream, you got to go to Brahms. I'm going to get some jokes from my Oklahoma people for that. But Brahms, love Oklahoma. Yeah, it's good stuff. And if you love coffee, Aspen Coffee. Those are the places. Cool. Those are the spots. Hot spots in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Awesome. Last quick hitter. QR codes, love it or hate it?
Personally, I hate it because I am a uniform purist. I don't want to see that on our helmets. I don't want to see it on our uniforms. I don't want to see ad patches in the future. With that being said, I understand that this is the era of college football. You need to do all you can. I wish that they would just limit it to being on the screen, being around town so you can scan it there. I don't think it's going to do that much for the being on the helmet. Who's going to do a QR code from the helmet? But from a marketing standpoint,
And we're talking about it.
Genius.
Yep.
No, makes total sense.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, Justin, thank you. Hey, I'm going to be on your show on Tuesday night.
Tuesday night. Can't
All right,
wait.
so-
We're going
all
to keep you a lot longer than you kept me.
Yeah, that's fine. And
Yeah,
again,
sorry
if
about
we didn't
that.
have another show that we normally have, we would talk so much longer right now. I'm yours as long as you want. So, Justin Southwell, everybody, Bleav in OK State ahead of this game coming up. All right, if you're, again, watching live, we're going to flip over right now and we'll start the A-Team podcast. Go big, go blue, go Jacks.
Jack.